Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for your presence to celebrate the future of aerospace. If we are all together today, it's because we share the same passion for this incredible industry. When most of the accelerator programs worldwide were put on hold, the UAE government and Hub71 had the courage to maintain our 2020 program. Let me share some slides so I can give you more insights on what we did on the last 3 months. Out of 200 applications, we selected the most promising 8 companies to join us in Abu Dhabi. I'm very proud to say that 70% of our cohort is led by female founders, even if it has never been one of our sourcing criteria. We just selected the tech having the best chance of success in our region, supported by talented teams. And as having a program in an industry under shutdown was not challenging enough, we decided to run an in-person program in Hub71 in Abu Dhabi and to fly 8 teams from 8 different countries. If we aerospace people are afraid to travel during a pandemic, who will do it? And now, the part I'm the most excited about, the traction. We receive engagement from all the ecosystem, from industry leaders, government regulators, and investors. A huge thank you to our mentors for their commitment to make this program a success. 54 use cases were designed and are under discussion. And this is the value proposition of our Gothams and Hub71 program, and where the UAE is offering to aerospace and defense startups a helping hand to innovative founders, even in one of the most regulated industries. We all share the same vision of supporting the growth of Abu Dhabi knowledge economy, and that's why, thanks to the unconditional support of our partners, we were able to fast track so many leads in only 2 months. And the model works. Last year, our alumni network succeeded in fundraising 27 million USD for their Series A. This is my favorite slide because it's about our people, our community. I would like to thank our founders for their resilience in being able to join us in Hub71. I would like to thank our local and international partners for their trust in delivering this program under uncertain circumstances, coming in person to support our companies. You will see today talented individuals that are dedicated to make the planet greener and the world safer. I'm proud that they are now part of Gothams Hub71 alumni network, and I'm proud to say that they would join soon Hub71 community, as they all decided to stay in the UAE and move part of the R&D team to the country to grow our innovation ecosystem. You will attend 2 batches of pitches, each of them followed by a Q&A session. Feel free to use the Q&A box to post your questions. I would like to thank our partners from the UAE Space Agency, the European Space Agency, Edge Group, and Hub71, that will participate to a panel discussion to present you their efforts on making the UAE a unique place to scale aerospace and defense startups. We will close the day by a private networking session with each of the founders. I let the floor to Ara to introduce the founder's pitch. I assume that you are as frustrated as I am of not being able to travel in the last months, so please fasten your seatbelts and let's take off with us.
Thank you, Elodie. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first session. As a reminder, each pitch is 10 minutes. The pitch video is around 6 minutes, and we will have 4 minutes for questions. As a reminder, please use the Q&A box below for your questions. The unattended questions, we will send you emails where appropriate, and alternatively, you can meet the startups after the session. We will share with you the meeting links at the chat box prior to the event at the end of the program. So we will start our session with 1702 AI. 1702 AI is a startup from Switzerland, specialized in real-time weapon detection for CCTV.
I would like to take us back to an extreme event. The date is March 18th, 2017. The place, Paris Airport. A man had stolen a gun from a security guard. Right away, he was neutralized and shot to death. But in the terminal, passengers went into a state of panic because of the gunshots. And that state of panic quickly spread throughout the airport. And on the tarmac, other passengers went into a state of panic. At the CCTV control centers, video security engineers also went into a state of panic for two reasons. They could not locate the anomaly, and second of all, because they were in front of so many screens, they went into a state of flight or fight. And in that state, our brain does something very interesting to our vision. It develops what we call tunnel vision, and it makes the eye focus on a small area, which make it nearly impossible to scan through all those screens. Chaos took over the airport, and passengers even used open freeways to get back to safety. It was immediately followed by an unwanted shutdown. The reason is Paris Airport had no other choice. The cost for such a shutdown is $300 million for every 24 hours, which was a great embarrassment for the airport authorities in the eyes of the French public. You see, if they had our weapon detection technology for CCTV, they would have been able to detect the gun in real time. And within a matter of few seconds, security teams would have been able to deploy and contain the panic effect. Instant weapon detection via AI through CCTV with real-time alerts, saving lives, preserving reputation, and making you save tremendous amount of money. This is what 1702 AI is all about. And it's also the reason why the city of Oslo in Norway and the Italian city of Padova have decided to retain our services and pay us 700,000 euros. The government of Austria is also a paying customer. But because of the COVID-19 pandemic, they asked us to hold off for the deployment. We all know what happened in Vienna a few weeks ago, and this is just an underlining fact to remind us that our technology is very much and urgently needed. So of course, we do have competitors, but as of now, we're the only company used by 3 governments, and everything that we build is 100% built in-house. We do not use any open source. Well, there's something unique actually about our technology. You see, we allow the end user to retrain the artificial intelligence. If there's a false alert, false positive, the end user can retrain it. And the system becomes more intelligent. It becomes more precise. It becomes smarter. So like everyone, we've been using the cloud. But one day our cloud provider did an update and it broke our code, and our neural networks could not be retrained. Our AI could not be retrained. Therefore, we decided to take onto this opportunity and open our own data center dedicated to AI retraining right here in Abu Dhabi. Not only does it make our product better, it is GDPR compliant, NATO compliant, and actually it adds another opportunity for our company. You see, as experts in AI retraining, this service is actually extremely valuable to global camera manufacturers, simply because AI retraining is outside of their core competency. And we're actually perfectly positioned to address this market, which is part of the massive cloud computing market valued at $832 billion. So right now, we're raising $6 million as a Series A. We already have an ARR of 300,000 by literally doing nothing. And we have accumulated 40 LOIs from different European cities who are ready to work with us and pay a yearly recurring fee of $300,000. The first $1 million will be used to create a customer success team, and it will also be used to address immediate client need. That is 25 very anxious European smart cities. Our team englobes 100 years of computer science expertise. It is led by Moshe, who was leading the trend and technology section of the world-famous IBM R&D lab in Zurich. Our CEO, Karen, comes with a very strong background in Swiss private banking, and she's a brilliant analyst. My work has been Oscar nominated, and I've been training Apple employees to learn about image processing for the last 10 years. And our AI is led by Avi, who's actually already leading AI at Motorola. And our advisory board member, Ran Oz, accumulated more than $1 billion in exits, and he holds 50 patents within the AI and image processing space. Now that team, ladies and gentlemen, is the best team to make this world safer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. We start now the questions from the floor. The first question is, what makes you stand out from other AI companies?
Well, definitely our ability to automatically retrain the artificial intelligences when customers encounter false alerts, that is false positives. This has never been done before, and it is what sets us apart and the reason why we work with many governments.
Okay, so the second question is, how did you survive and manage COVID? I mean, I think this is can be generic for each one of us.
Yes, actually, we learned, I would say, how to become camels. You know, we say camels can retain water for many days. And what we learned during COVID is a new approach, a financing approach that is really spend on only what is necessary, push the team only with passion, give freedom to the employees that we had, and I would say be very patient and provide excellent customer support. And this is what we learned through COVID, and also that remote working using for artificial intelligence is definitely possible. So
amazing. Amazing. Maybe you will make one day guidelines about that. So so we have a question again. Your product and sales strategy seems to be project-based, city by city. How much custom integration do you have to make in order to scale and implement to new municipalities? And how long does it take?
Well, actually, our product is API-based, which allows us to deploy in a snap. And by being API-based, you're not forcing municipalities, government, smart cities to learn a new system. We just feed the alerts to their existing alerting system. And by having no user interface, it allows us to focus a lot more on the artificial intelligence and machine learning development of our product. That is one thing. Now, in terms of project, yes, the sales cycle is long, but we're lucky enough that with the tender that we have, it is aimed at a deployment in 100 cities and 40 municipalities by 2030. This is one contract. So that englobes, you do the math, at 300,000 euros yearly recurring fee per municipality. It is very, very profitable.
So we take two more questions, one from Jerome, which says, which markets do you target by region and by sectors?
Yes, so region is European and MENA. Of course, now JCC with the AI retraining. That will validate our technology so that we're going to have a strong foot as well in Southeast Asia. And then we stick to the public safety sector.
Okay, so the last question, and we'll be done by that. So this is from Mubarak. What is your go-to-market strategy, and which channels do you intend to use?
Go-to-market strategy when you work in public safety with defense, the military, is a lot done word of mouth by attending trade shows and by actually having governments seeing that your company is actually sticking to what it promised it will do. And it allows some room for pivoting. But over the last few years, for instance, we've been attending cyber tech. And this is actually a way for us that our current existing customer, they were happy to see us year after year. We were able to develop together a trustworthy relationship. Because when you work with government, you cannot just turn off the system like Dropbox and say, okay, I don't need the service anymore for the next 6 months. Tenders have a lifespan of 5 to 7 years. Therefore, our strategy is really focused to gaining and developing true human building relationships, corporate relationships, and also by having a foot in Europe, the NATO compliance is a must, as well as GDPR compliance. Once you reach those levels, the rest follows.
All right. So who are the competitors, Khalid is asking?
Oh, the competitors, we have a few. The first one that comes into my mind would be Athena Security in the US. They are a PR powerhouse. They have no government clients. Actuate is a very good company in the US based in New York, but the difference is they do not build everything in-house like we do. We struggle. We code using very low-level machine code. Therefore, it allows what we call multi-threading and deployment extremely fast. Actually, thanks to Ran Oz, our advisory board, who was CTO on already 5 successful startups, he told us this is the key when you need to deploy rapidly.
Thank you.
That's it. And the other competitors are just detecting weapons using acoustic detection.
Okay, for all the unanswered questions, we will email them back to you where appropriate. Thank you so much, Joe and 1702 AI team. Next, we'll go to 3IPK from Slovakia. They're specialized in the blockchain-based SaaS solution, reducing costs by increasing efficiency and transparency of business processes in aerospace and defense industry.
Hi, my name is Juraj, and I'm the co-founder of 3IPK, a startup developing blockchain-based solutions for aerospace industry. Everyone remembers the 2 tragic accidents of the Boeing 737 aircraft. Well, an investigation report released just in September 2020 identifies that it is the culture of concealment that is to be blamed for these accidents. A culture of concealment means a culture of non-transparency, which means a culture in which it is okay to cut corners and to be non-compliant to safety requirements. What were the results? Well, $19 billion in terms of financial loss due to the grounding of the global Boeing 737 MAX fleet. But most importantly, 346 casualties. Any organization operating in a highly regulated and highly competitive environment is at risk of non-compliance to safety requirements. At 3IPK, we are using the basic properties of blockchain, such as data immutability, which means that any data written cannot be changed in the future, as well as data traceability, in order to enable the culture of transparency, which in turn contributes to safety and reliability. Moreover, complex and stringent regulatory environments require complex processes, which in turn generate costs and inefficiencies. Using exactly the same properties of blockchain allow us to introduce transparent processes and automatic traceability in order to reduce the costs of average aerospace programs by more than 20%. Our first customer is the European Space Agency, to whom we deliver a blockchain-based solution for quality process management, which generates for us revenues of more than 160,000 euros. But most importantly, it allows us access to the European space manufacturing base of more than 400 firms, our potential customers. However, the global market is much bigger, reaching almost 10 billion US dollars, with addressable part of almost 4 billion US dollars, which allow us an obtainable market of more than 90 million US dollars a yearly revenue. So how do we make money? Through the scalable software as a service solution where our customers pay us monthly fees. Our solution is easily configurable, and therefore we can address also other verticals and generate other revenue streams. Our solution allows for high customer lifetime value, and this is because the switching costs for our customers who have already integrated our solution in their IT landscape are fairly high. Our competitors are big corporations, but also startups. However, they focus only on partial solution. For example, integrated blockchain in logistics or document control. So how are we better? Well, we have adopted a holistic approach. This means we are looking at end-to-end business processes because this is where most of the waste and therefore value lies. Our solutions are readily available as they are in live commercial operations as we speak. We believe in interoperability. Interoperability with existing systems, but also with other blockchain ecosystems. And finally, our solutions are affordable. They are affordable to small and medium enterprises, as well as startups, and this way we help them to remove an important barrier to entry to the aerospace world. Our existing customer is the European Space Agency. However, we have also generated a significant leads here in the UAE, which allows us to explore the local market for future growth. Our partners include Mubadala, Gothams, and Hub71, as well as strategic partners such as IBM. As I mentioned, our solutions are easily configurable, and therefore we can address other verticals. For example, in food manufacturing, our solutions are in live commercial operations when it comes to blockchain-based provenance proving of food products. Other verticals may include logistics or even counterfeit prevention of manufactured goods. Our team is our biggest asset. Maria has experience both in corporate and entrepreneurial world. Maciej is one of the pioneers of blockchain, and Peter is taking care of our technical deliveries. And myself, I have experience in aerospace industry, having worked both at Airbus Commercial and Airbus Defense and Space. In terms of fundraising, since our inception in January 2019, we have went through bootstrapping and pre-seed fundraising rounds, and we are closing our seed round as we speak. We are looking to fundraise another 2 million euros before the end of the first half of 2021, and we will use these funds to extend our solution delivered to the European Space Agency, close our first contracts here in the UAE, and develop MVPs in other high-growth verticals. So come and join us to help us on our journey of growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Juraj. We will start with the questions. I remind the audience, please use the Q&A box if you have any questions. The first question is, you mentioned that 3i PK's technology is suitable for dual use. Which alternative vertical is the most promising and how you will address it?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. As I mentioned during the pitch, we can address multiple verticals. However, the most promising is probably the food industry, in which we have a product which is in live operation and where we have paying customers, and where there is a clear trend. There is a clear trend among especially younger population that who want to know what they eat, how it was produced, and especially topics of reliability and sustainability. So we plan to ride this wave in this vertical.
Amazing. Until I wait for more questions to come, I would like to actually ask you the same question that was addressed to your colleague. How did you survive and manage COVID-19? I mean, this is something maybe all of us, we should put a guide on that, because you're doing an excellent job, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So COVID-19 meant that we were not able, for example, to travel and meet our customers, which was definitely a new thing in the months of March or April. So that was challenging. However, on the other side, it was in the month of April that we have been notified of our success in the call for tender of the European Space Agency. So there are kind of both sides to the topic. And now, as people are getting used to the new reality, many things can be done online, as we see today.
Okay, there is a question here from Distera that asking why you are not focusing on other sectors, I guess, or disfocusing.
Yes, so we started our focus on the aerospace industry, and this is quite natural fit because of my particular background in aerospace, where we have identified there is a clear use case for blockchain, because it's a highly regulated environment, very deep and wide supply chains. So it's a perfect fit, and the traction validates that. So this is where we started. We developed the solution for aerospace, and then other verticals are simply simplified cases of aerospace parts. So a chocolate bar is simply a much more simple spacecraft component, I would say. So this way, we believe that we can use the very solid solution developed for aerospace in other high growth verticals such as food. So yes, we are addressing also the other verticals, but we originated in aerospace business because of our background.
Amazing. So a question from Basim. Do you have your own platform ready, or is it in the pipeline?
It's our own platform which is ready, yes.
Okay. Again, Mbarak, one more question. Can you explain how you penetrated the food market, as it is a highly fragmented market?
Yes, so for example, we started fairly locally. So our first customer, for example, is as you've seen in a slide, a manufacturer of luxury chocolates who puts lots of accent on the sustainability and the responsibility and the sourcing of cocoa beans, for example. And this is how we spread around, because once we have a solution which works, for example, for chocolate bars, where now we are also extending our solutions, for example, to wine industry and other similar sectors. Just configuring these solutions. So this is the advantage.
Okay,
we address sub markets.
We'll take one more question. It's the last one. We will conclude the 4 minutes with this one. How do you challenge the concept of IBM and other major companies developing their own blockchain technologies?
So I challenge it by the fact that exactly as you said, because they develop their own blockchain technology. So for example, we do not develop our own blockchain. We use various blockchains, including IBM's blockchain, for example. And as I mentioned, IBM is also one of our partners, quite interestingly enough. And what is interesting about that, it's simply IBM is not able to address the SME market because of their intrinsic costs. And I see also a question whether we have real customers. So yes, we do, like the European Space Agency and various customers in the food industry. So it's a real solution.
Thank you so much, the IBM team. Next, we have Corona Aerospace. Corona is from Canada, specialized in cloud-based aerospace defense and virtual augmented operational and simulation solutions.
Hi, I'm John Nicol from Corona Aerospace, and before I start my presentation, I wanted to share a short story with you. I was in the military for 20 years, and in 2000 I found myself as a UN peacekeeper in the Middle East. Now, we were unarmed observers rolling around the patrol area with a paper map and a radio to let people know where we were. Well, one day I found myself lost, and I was in an unfriendly area. I found myself in a village surrounded by a lot of very angry people trying to get me out of the vehicle. I extracted myself and then went back to the operations center and wrote some software to allow them to track peacekeepers in the field so that they wouldn't have the same situation I got into. Let's fast forward 20 years, and in a modern military operations center, you have the opposite problem to what we faced 20 years ago. We have a lot of information coming in, a lot of data needs to be fused and understood from various sensors, video feeds, and so on. And with COVID for large enterprises, there's also an issue. Trying to manage a complex organization using video conferencing and teleconferencing software doesn't really cut it in modern times. So we provided our own solution. It's an XR-based solution for remote collaboration, operations, and planning. XR is a mold of virtual, augmented, and mixed reality. The unique proposition of our software is that we fuse data coming in and we can visualize that within the 3D space, but we can also operate real-world equipment from within the application itself. So the key to this software is that we truly believe it's the future of command and control. Now I can say that with distinction because our software is being used by NATO now for their virtual command post of the future project. Here's a quick video showing the application running. We have a map table in the center of the room. The 3D model of the room could be changed to anything, and we have imagery around the outside. The map table itself, we can have air, land, sea, space, and subsurface entities shown on the terrain. And we can also have real or simulated data overlays, live web feeds, and imagery along the sides. We also support NATO standard video streams coming from drones or flying platforms. We support standard military symbols as well as 3D radar and radio visualization. We can also show damage states for various entities from the simulation platforms. And we also support terrain streaming from anywhere in the world to any location, and we can also point to internal web map tile services. A key feature is, of course, the remote collaborative planning, and this short excerpt taken from a recent NATO exercise shows collaboration from 2 locations in Canada, one in Holland and one in Italy. We also support high-resolution 3D terrain data as well, and we can overlay data into those areas. We also support interactive 3D modeling, so we can open doors, we can play with switches, we can open the hood. In this case, it's great for training and collaboration. We support concurrent multiple meeting spaces, so you don't need to close down the software and then relaunch it to launch into a new meeting space. These are all concurrent. Additional uses for our engine include the use as augmented reality to look through metal. If you're in a vehicle or an aircraft, you can look through the actual vehicle to see sensor data through the metal. Now also imagine social media, a 3D XR collaborative YouTube, for example, where the influencers are in a studio interacting with their audience. Our traction has been fantastic. We've got these current customers are probably generating about $2 million next fiscal year, and we've had a fantastic response in the UAE with our current accelerator program. We've secured $1.2 million US to date in investment. Key roles and team members, our CEO designate is coming in from a tier 1 organization. He will be coming on board very soon. And myself, I've worked in these organizations, and I've also been a principal engineer at Lockheed Martin for the desktop trainer for the F-35 program. I'm recognized as an international expert in modeling and simulation, and I've written a book that's actually been used as a textbook in Cranfield University at the master's level for modeling and simulation. And I'm also a serial entrepreneur and startup person. So I've actually started up a company which within 3 years became a top 40 Canadian defense public safety startup. Our target market, our total addressable market identified by Gartner is $160 billion. And of that, our target market is $9.5 billion, made up of about 300,000 customers in the enterprise and government military space. The competitive landscape. Our software is world-class. It's built from the ground up to specifically support operations and planning in a secure manner. The others aren't. Now, our Series A funding we're looking at is US $10 million, made up of targeted acquisitions so we can scale quickly and get our operations off the ground to support our customers. Our business model is simple. We provide sales of our software to our customers, and we also provide software as a service revenue generation models as well. Our services include the installation, management and maintenance of the software at a customer site, and the custom development of plugins for custom data and gateways. Significant milestones over the last 18 months include a demonstration to the Supreme Allied Commander transformation for NATO. We've been involved in the last 2 NATO interoperability exercises, and we've just signed a contract with General Dynamics and a teaming arrangement with Diamond Group in Canada to support their UAV operations. We're looking at our Q2 of next year for the release of our mobile version, which supports the Oculus Quest and other hardware platforms. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. We'll start with the questions. I remind the audience we have 4 minutes, and we'll start to take the question. Please use the Q&A box if you have any questions to John. The first question is, what value do you expect from a VC fund apart from capital injection?
So to answer that question, what I'd like to see in a VC fund is partnering and collaboration at at every level. I think that having a related fund that's into technology that can open doors and support us in our growth is key. And we are in growth phase, so having a VC that's used to that growth phase to give us that assistance would be fantastic.
Amazing. John, there is one question that, we'll try to ask each one of you. It's, how did you survive and manage COVID-19?
Yeah, so the name of the company might give it away, but that's nothing to do with COVID. It was actually named well before the virus hit. It's the name of the ship that brought my family from Scotland to New Zealand in 1874. So there's a historical reason why, and I guess the journey hasn't stopped, going from New Zealand and now living in Canada and potentially moving to the UAE. But surviving, no, we've got some very solid customers and contracts in place with the government of Canada, and that's helped us immensely get through this period.
Amazing. I have a question here from Khalid. He's saying, from where you source the mapping data, and do you expect targets you can work B2B or B2G only?
No, definitely B2B, B2G, and potentially B2C if we do expand or pivot into the social media space with the software. I mean, it's a software platform that can be extended. In terms of the mapping software, we can use any open map tiling type service. What you saw in the video was actually from the internet. And we can point that to any internal web map tiling service as well. So particularly for governments where they've got classified data, we can point to their internal systems. Amazing.
John, here there's a question, although Mubarak, we cannot bring you back to the business model here, but I'm sure we can answer the question. First, how reusable is the environment? And how do you make sense of what should be custom development and what is stable product or solution on what you're offering?
So can you repeat the first part of the question? I missed that.
The first part is how reusable is it, the environment? I don't know if it reflects to the product. And how do you make sense of what should be custom development, the product, or how stable is the product or the solution from sustainability point of view?
Well, so the custom development is really the gateways for the customer's existing data. What is their data sets, and do we need to provide any custom development to turn that data into 3D spatial information or geo-referenced information? So some data is better than others, and we do support standard off-the-shelf protocols. However, so many customers, particularly our military and government customers, are already supported within the environment with their standard gateways. In terms of usability, that's always it depends on the actual user, but we're always looking at new ways to improve the user interface and the experience.
Amazing. Thank you so much, John. Thank you, Corona Aerospace team. Next, we have the concept from UAE specialized in developing smart, sustainable, and antimicrobial aircraft cabin product for the aviation industry.
In 2020, we released Neos Fly, the world's lightest and safest in-flight meal tray. We're manufacturing it out of sustainable and recyclable materials. We've also designed our tray to be 30% lighter in weight. This in turn helped airlines save up to $1.5 million on fuel savings per contract. And we're proud because Neos Fly is the world's first certified antimicrobial in-flight meal tray, fighting against 99.9% of microbes in the air and even strands of coronavirus. Now, we've developed our product to be 20% cheaper than our competitors, and we've developed it over the last 2.5 years with some amazing companies all across our supply chain. Now, we launched our product in 2020 in the middle of a global pandemic. But the overwhelming response was that airlines needed our product as it's part of their recovery plan to ensure that customers feel safe to fly again. And that's where today, we're already in tender with 4 leading airlines at a contract value of $15 million. It was while we were developing Neos Fly that we all also realized that there was another problem. And that's the fact that every single year, $975 million worth of untouched food and beverage after a flight ends up in landfills. That's food that gets put on board an aircraft, never gets consumed, and then ends up in a landfill. So you might ask why? Well, it's pretty simple. See, today a flight catering center prepares food, puts it in cabin trolleys, and gives it to cabin crew on board an aircraft. Now, these cabin crew do get a manifest that says you have 40 trolleys in which you have 20 veg and 20 non-veg. But that's where the data flow stops. Because the minute cabin crew starts serving their food, they're not actually collecting how many meals are we serving or what are our passengers actually consuming or not, which means that you lead to limited passenger preference data. You don't actually know what your passengers want to consume. Now that means excessive food waste. And excessive food waste also means high cost. Not just the missed out revenue, but even the extra weight that you're flying on board an aircraft. So we came up together and said, why only create the world's lightest and safest in-flight meal tray? Why not create the world's first in-flight smart tray? And that's where we're introducing Neos Fly Plus. We're taking the exact same tray, but we're embedding it with NFC technology. Now the NFC chips are both pressure, weight, and temperature sensitive, and it'll help us to understand product type, location, availability, and consumption. Now it does have a companion, and that's a retrofitted cabin trolley that houses both an NFC receiver as well as a computer that runs our own proprietary software so that the tray and trolley can communicate. So what's the data that we can capture? Well, in level 1, we'll be able to tell airlines whether food was consumed or not. This in itself is a massive breakthrough for the industry. In level 2, we'll be able to do the same, but also let them know what percentage of the hot meal was consumed. Now level 3 is our alpha. That's our goal, where we'll be able to tell airlines any food that's put on the tray, what percentage of that was actually consumed. Using this data, airlines will be able to reduce their F&B waste and costs by up to 80% by us providing them information on what their passengers actually like to consume. This can also help them to resell food on board an aircraft and salary revenue. But at the end of the day, all of our data will help them with predictive data for inventory utilization and forecasting. Whether it's a new route from Abu Dhabi to Tel Aviv or changing a route timing, they'll know what F&B to put on board an aircraft. Now we've developed the entire thing taking into consideration that the aviation industry hates extra human touch points. So the trolleys that record our data, once the aircraft lands on ground, that trolley then automatically sends our data to the cloud, to either an airline's enterprise data platform or to our own enterprise data platform. Now we've brought in our development partner Airbus, our distribution partner Orvec, who opens 20 plus airlines across the world, and locally here in the UAE, both Emirates and Etihad Airways have shown their interest to do a POC and also to be our initial clients. Now our overall market size is worth $2.4 billion, in which we're looking to capture $300 million of that. Our business model, and here's what airlines love, because we sell our tray on average for $1.50, which in essence is 20% cheaper than our competitors. And we want to make it feasible for them to get access to the data. So they just pay 1.5 cents per tray per flight route. What does that mean in the big picture? For a flight from Abu Dhabi to Melbourne, they would just pay $6 to get all the data on their passenger consumption behavior on that flight. Now we'll be reselling this data to flight catering centers, hospitality organizations, and even publishing organizations. So in terms of our development, today we're creating our first MVP. We're working with Avery Dennison and HID in order to procure the right tags, understand exactly which is the manufacturing point. And by Q3 2021, we would have worked with Airbus to do our first pilot on board their smart catering projects, and also do a live pilot with a UAE-based airline. Our goal by Q4 2021 to have launched Neos Fly Plus. And taking it from there, we'd like to see Neos Fly Plus and the technology be used for other verticals like rail and sea. As a product development company, we're taking hardware innovation and technology, marrying it together to solve our customers' pain points in a sustainable manner. And we're doing those in other verticals as well, in the medical industry as well as in space. Till date, we've raised $250,000. And now we're looking to raise a round for $1 million US. This money will predominantly be used to expand our team, give us runway for 16 months, and also enter new verticals. Our team, and this is my favorite slide, because not only are we young, but we're experienced as well. We're experienced in design, innovation, business, finance, engineering, and technology. And recently, we got our own tech team in-house. We have a great advisory team that's added both credibility and opened new opportunities for us. Over the last 2.5 years, we've had the pleasure of being part of programs like Gothams, Hub71, and even won awards such as Startup of the Year Middle East in 2018. We're excited to have you partner with us in order to enable disruption in sustainability. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We'll start with our questions. Again, I remember the audience to use the Q&A box here if you have any questions. The question duration is 4 minutes. And we'll start with our first question. Can you explain how this combination of hardware and technology can be used in other industries?
Sure. Thanks a lot for that question. Yeah. So, I mean, look, what we've developed is, and it can be used in any industry, whether it's in the rail industry, it's in the hospitality, it's in the medical industry. So that's what we love about what we've done. It just happens to be that aviation industry is the first, but it's literally a tray, right? And a tray could be used in multiple situations. So we're looking to introduce it into the medical, hospitality, rail, and even space, hopefully one day. Yeah.
How much does the total product weigh? Nate is asking.
So it depends on the material selection, and we leave that up to the client and customer. We have a range of available sustainable materials, ranging between 140 grams to around 250 grams. Whichever one, it depends what we compare it to the current client's tray products that they're currently using, and that will determine the amount of weight saved. However, we do recommend the most sustainable material in order to reduce the weight as much as possible and reduce the amount of fuel and reduce carbon dioxide emissions.
Where is it manufactured? Khalid is asking.
So we manufacture our product today in Eastern Europe. However, our goal, again, being part of Hub71 and raising our investment, is to bring that to the UAE soon.
George is asking, how efficient do you think you can be, considering that client preference and many other human ambiguous factors are involved?
So I'll answer this to the best of what I understand the question. Look, we're completely customizable, and that's one thing that airlines love working with us. I mean, we work with each client before we actually put out our product. So we don't just go on random tenders with them. We work with them. We work with all of their stakeholders, whether it's cabin crew, it's their flight catering centers, it's their product development team. So I guess in terms of client's preference, that's one thing that we're good at, because we take exactly what they want, develop it together, and then put it out there for them. Is your product subjected to aircraft standards for certification? Julio is asking. Yes, it is. So there are parts of our pure hardware, no, but the hardware with Technios Fly Plus, it does. And that's where we're working with the likes of Airbus and other companies in order to comply according to the certifications.
So we have one interesting question. It's a different sector, actually. Are hotels using similar technology for in-room refrigerators? If not, can your technology be used for that purpose?
Yeah,
and are hotels part of your roadmap?
Yeah, thanks a lot, David, for that question. Great question. So that's actually part of our roadmap. It's part of what we want to do, which is work with these companies. Again, our goal right now is to get our first product out there, prove that the technology works in the hardware. But yeah, that's kind of one of our next projects that we want to work, which is refrigerators for homes, as well as for hotels.
Okay, so just one more question. Just like I asked all the other teams, how COVID affected you? How did you manage to deal with it?
Yeah, so I mean, considering the fact that we're an aviation startup and we released it just before the pandemic, scary times, won't lie. We thought, you know, it's going to be tough, but that's where being a startup is amazing and having a team is a good team is great. We were able to pivot so quick and make our tray antimicrobial. The minute we were able to add that, you know, we had more traction than even before COVID. So I think we've done well. We've been smart enough in a very short time, within 2 to 3 weeks, to make key decisions to move the angle of our product from just sustainability to sustainability and antimicrobial, which is paying off for us today. And we're seeing more and more airlines potentially sign us up to be their customers, to be their provider, sorry.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I hand now over the mic to Elodie to introduce to you our esteemed moderator for the upcoming session. And I look forward to seeing you all again after the session to introduce to you to our second group. Over to you, Elodie.
Thank you, Ara. It's a great honor to have today the presence of our distinguished partners, the UAE Space Agency, Edge Group, and Hub71. Hanan, Fahad, Khaled, thanks for your support and the support of your teams during the program. Our companies knew before coming to Hub71 that innovation was a serious subject in the UAE, but there is always a gap between knowing things and experiencing them. It's a great pleasure to have Elia from the European Space Agency to moderate the session. Our industry is global by essence. Our objective is not to copy past what has been done somewhere else, but really to leverage the vision of the UAE to bring something new to the innovation scene. And that's why our international partners are key. Elia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thanks for the invitation and welcome to the esteemed panelists today. My name is Elia Montanari. As introduced, I'm part of the European Space Agency and I work as management and control manager. And my title there does actually say that I'm practically an engineer turned finance. And I want to introduce very briefly the panelists today. Hanan Harhara Aliafei, CEO at Hub71. Fahad Al-Mahiri, Acting Executive Director of Space Sector at the UAE Space Agency. And Khalid Al-Breiki, President Mission Support at Edge. So we'll have a short conversation, and what I'd like to bring up first of all is an old proverb that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you have to go together. And as part of the innovation ecosystem, also in Europe, we clearly look at our neighbors and the emerging countries in the space in order to find opportunity for collaboration. You are actually covering a role as a leader and you have a mission for your organization. And my first question would be, how do you see yourself contributing to the success of the UAE strategic vision and reaching out for this collaboration in all stakeholders of the ecosystem? I'd like to start with you, Hanan.
Great, thank you, Ilya. So you're absolutely right. The key to all of this is partnerships. So Hub71 is the flagship project of Abu Dhabi's Economic Accelerator Program, Ghadan 21. And the mandate and the mission of Ghadan 21 is to move towards a economy that's based on knowledge and work towards innovation and technology. Hub71's mandate is to create that tech ecosystem here in Abu Dhabi that supports with that mission. And the way we do it is by helping startups and entrepreneurs to grow within the technology sector within the technology sector here in Abu Dhabi. And the way we do this is by providing them with access to capital, access to talent, access to a competitive business and regulatory framework. And we cannot do this on our own. We do this through the backing of our partners. So we've got strong partnerships from corporates, from technology companies, from the VCs and investors. And that's really the key of how we can support this tech ecosystem here in Abu Dhabi.
It's actually your answer resonates enormously to me, and I'd like to hear also Fahad, as obviously a colleague, a space agency. What is your take in this?
No, I completely agree with Hanan, and I think it's all about seeing what we can all do together. As the space agency, we're so lucky to have entities around us like Hub71 and everything that's going on today. To be able to support us, as a regulator body, as a federal entity, it's not really for us to be the ones to physically drive a lot of these companies forward, but it's for us to really ensure that we have the right infrastructure in place. So the UAE Space Agency has put together, the space law, the space policy, as well as the space strategy, and all of these things combined is there to really help and support the growth of the space sector in the UAE. And having partners like Hub71 really allows us to, let's say, validate the space aspect of any new entities or entrepreneurs or startups, or even companies coming in from overseas, to identify how those entities or companies could be serving the UAE, and if the technologies they are bringing is something definitely new and interesting to us in the country, and that could help serve different entities across the UAE, whether it's the private sector, whether it's government entities that could use their services. And so for us, it's all about ensuring that we have a clear journey for these entrepreneurs and startups. And that's where this ecosystem can be put together. And that's where the UAE Space Agency, I would say, is focusing now with the government sector. We've just recently had the next 50 plan, and we're also working right now on the government's next 2022 to 2026 strategy. And all of these things are coming into place now, taking a look at how we can support each other, who we need to make sure we're working closely together with, and how we can all support each other to grow various entities. So for us, of course, the space sector is that pillar and is that drive. And like you said, together we will go far.
Yes, it's nearly a conclusion, this one, but we like to hear also from Khalid, and today you're probably representing also a little bit the industry and maybe also the future customer. What do you see the role also of industry and Edge in bringing this vision together?
Sure. It's very interesting to hear my colleagues as well. I think we are all echoing the same message one way or another. From Edge perspective, though, the very creation of Edge is technically envisioning the concept of what our country wants to do in our industry in particular. Edge is celebrating right now 1 year since its inception. We are a collaboration of about 25 plus companies. We're all being brought together to focus on industry and security businesses. And at the same time, we have been, we divided ourselves into 5 different clusters with a very clear, sharp focus on each cluster, industry and customer, and then the ecosystem that related to that cluster itself. So within the companies, we have a lot of different projects that we are working together to enhance the value proposition of Edge. But beyond just the companies, we're also approaching it from cluster and sub-cluster perspective as well. And the bigger picture as well, we are believing that we are also the anchor between our end users, our industry regulators, and then all the industries that are sub-supporting directly or indirectly our industry. So Edge by itself is the embodiment of the vision itself. And that's why we are very excited about it, and we are very eager to deliver the message itself.
So there are a number of things that Hanan, Fahad, and Khalid have already mentioned in the initial answers, and my memory goes back somehow to roughly 15 years ago when SpaceX was more famous to destroy their asset by blowing a rocket every quarter than a real launching company. Nowadays, they have achieved something that practically nobody can do, is rocket science, rockets, basically science fiction. But the idea is that nowadays UAE is moving forward, is a spacefaring country, and there are certain things that in particular may be required in the deep tech sector, like special ingredients that may be needed to compete globally, like of ecosystem like Silicon Valley, but also London, Berlin, Singapore. Hanan, is there any of these secret sauce and ingredients that can be placed in UAE?
So I think the most important thing from my perspective is the support of the government, right? So the government has been very forward thinking in terms of how they want how do they see the future of the country and where do they want to focus the efforts. And with that, it really gives us a clear advantage over other countries or other parts of the world, because it makes us focus on changing the regulations, working on policies, taking a very grassroots approach, and really embodying the different elements that need to change in order to support the development and progression in these different sectors. One area that we can talk about is education, for example. As part of, there's a need for us to work on developing our talent, and the UAE is home to one of the first universities in the world that is dedicated to artificial intelligence. That's the Mohammed bin Zayed University for AI. At the same time, Hub71, for example, is located here in ADGM. The regulatory environment in ADGM is relatively progressive, really making sure that there's that robust regulatory framework that really helps startups, entrepreneurs, technology in general, to support them address their challenges and help them unlock some of these challenges for them. These are examples of how the UAE and Abu Dhabi are working towards really looking at it with the lens of we're serious about this. We're very much committed to innovation and technology. Let's start with the regulatory framework, and everything else would just fall in place.
This is a very profound thing, because I like the idea of the long-term view in implementing change, in particular with the education. And I like to hear also Fahad, because obviously the capital intensiveness that space requires also requires some special ingredients.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, concur with everything Hanan said. And, if we look at space for the UAE started, I would say, when the UAE was almost just 5 years old. We had the astronauts from the Apollo 17 mission with the NASA administration. They had come down and they had met his, our late father, His Highness Sheikh Zayed Al Nahyan, God rest his soul. And they actually gifted him a rock from the moon. And so you can imagine that this concept of space has not been there, just since the last 10 years, but it has been there since the UAE was only 5 years old. And that's 45 years ago. So, there's so many things that have happened since then, and they've understand the steps that are needed to get to where we want to be. And again, going back to the education aspect, today we have 7 master's degrees throughout UAE universities that are emphasizing space programs, whether it's even law or it's technical aspects in space. And this is something huge for the UAE to now have. We have 5 different R&D centers, 4 of them linked directly to universities. We have engineers who didn't have a place to go when it comes to space. And today, a lot of them are, spread across the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, YASAT, the universities, and of course at the UAE Space Agency, where we have seconded a lot of these engineers out to the different R&D centers to gain the experience that they need. And that is what's really been missing, I would say, the experience. And this is, you need time to get there. But technology advancement has always been a main pillar for the UAE. And a lot of people always think, okay, space is the stars and moon and science and astronomy, but it's not just that. It's the technology that you need to get there, right? That's now a human challenge, right? The Emirates Mars mission, it took 6 years to be able to launch that. 450 people involved, 200 Emiratis. And, this is done just through hard work and, dedication, perseverance. And, the name of the Emirates Hope Probe just says it all, right? This gives huge inspiration, not only to the UAE, to the youth, but to the whole Arab region, to really uplift and show the capabilities that the country as small as the UAE can get there. Think about it. We have 3 countries going to Mars, to the red planet, right? The Emirates Mars mission through the Hope Probe, the US with the Perseverance, and China with their Taiwan. So we're up there, all going to Mars today. And who would ever think that a country as small as the UAE would get there? But we are there, and that is a beacon of hope to show that that is the end goal, the end game that we want to get to. And now, all the foundation and the grassroots, as mentioned by Hanan, is put in place. And now the aspiration that all of this brings to catalyze companies from startups and entrepreneurs and big companies to come to the UAE and rethink, what is it that we could do? How could we help the UAE? Because the government and the leadership are behind space. And, you see news daily now with how the Ministry of Economy and the whole UAE is looking at how to ease business here in the UAE, how to make it more secure for investors, how to make people feel this is their second home and come here and drive those aspects forward.
Yes, it all starts with long-term vision, and all the respects to UAE for having achieved this mission, Al-Amal. It's a very, very big endeavor. I like now to ask also to Khalid, because we sort of mentioned it a bit. Aerospace lends itself for many different technology advancements. Obviously, there is the engineering, the physics, the math, but for example, even medicine. And when we look at other things, there are many disruptive technologies that investors and governments are interested, like artificial intelligence, big data treatment, quantum computing, that enter this game also in aerospace. What do you think, Khalid, are the most critical innovation needed, both globally and UAE?
All right, so involving startup is really a relentless effort. It's a continuous effort because the requirement is always there. If you take, for example, the defense and aerospace, the challenges are always evolving. Defense is always linked to country sovereignty, for example, inability for them to defend themselves. At the same time, aerospace has been always a platform to test everything that is new and even to expand the boundaries from that perspective. So the demand for startups, the demand for having a genuine way of coming up with solutions has always been in demand in those two sectors. And it has been always there all the time. Now, from our perspective, what kind of technologies that we are focused on at the moment? Blockchain definitely is one of them. Artificial intelligence goes beyond the question right now. It goes in every aspect of everything that we're doing, whether that's deep machine learning or just machine learning itself. And then also from AR, VR, and simulation perspective, those are very much linked to our way how we are dealing some of the requirement in the defense sector as well. So those, particularly some of the technologies that we are very much focused on now. Autonomous robotics, they're in the very DNA of Edge. We're very much investing, we're very much focused, we're very much reaching out to many different subject matter experts in those domains in particular. In general, though, our process and our aspect, how we are addressing new technologies are from dual technologies applicability, whether that's from defense or from commercial side, or let's say from a civil side. It has been always a history that in the defense sector, they're always the big boys that they're producing everything. Lately, though, that has changed. Many new technologies, many new solutions, many new breakthroughs on the way that we're solving problems are coming up from startups and companies that historically they used to be in the civil side and mostly into IT side as well. So those people are coming in right now in the defense sector, and they're making a disturbance in the way that we're addressing different solutions. And that's why we believe that any solution that we want to adapt has to have dual applicability from commercial and from defense side as well. Our approach right now, our focus in Edge is very much reaching out to many different subject matter experts. We want to create a location and a place for Edge that basically those bright minds can flourish. They can find case-by-case problems that they can solve together with us. And it has been successful so far. And we're very encouraged with the kind of results that we're getting.
Yeah, this you're very right there. It's always a moving target. It's always a moving target, and the startups are coming out with solutions that initially, it's we have also examples here in Europe where things you kind of think, yeah, only big guy can tackle this sort of solution. And I give you a very straight example. There is a company called Lilium from Germany that is doing basically air taxi. So flying taxis, and is a startup, and they're competing globally with the likes of Airbus and so on. So it's so very, very true in that respect. The other thing I really like to mention on some of the technology that Edge is working on. We have seen some examples today in the pitches. So congratulations to the people working in that. Maybe I'd like to conclude our talk and just mention, it was a question that was raised practically through every startup, and it's about the COVID, right, and the long term. The reality is, as investor and space investor in particular, let's qualify it properly, new space investor, I've seen very strong resilience in the portfolio that we are managing. Even if you take public company like Virgin Galactic, has been very resilient in terms of an investment, and also a smaller ticket size in the venture capital area. The new space companies have achieved numerous closing of investments. So Fahad, how do you see this in the long term? Obviously, we are looking at the longer term here, and what obviously space is always longer term. And what is also your next challenge as a space agency?
I mean, like you said, right? You asked everybody, how did people survive and how's the space sector been faring? I mean, if you look at the aerospace sector, yes, it definitely took a big hit. Travel restrictions came into play and really inhibited a lot of, for real need and reasons to stop the spread and things. But, today, now they've got new policies and procedures in place, and it's just about making sure that everybody is safe and you have that security. So hopefully soon things will move forward. But again, looking at, the situation with the COVID, a lot of people thought, yes, it'll slow a lot of things down. It did slow a lot of things down everywhere. But I think when it came to space, it almost accelerated quite a few things. You know, again, just going back to the EMM Perseverance and Taiwan, all of them went through during the pandemic. And you have the success of so many space projects across the world, you know, have really put a huge spotlight, I think, on space in 2020. You mentioned SpaceX, you know, several other things have happened throughout the year when it comes to space. And honestly, I think you could say that, you know, 2020 has been a huge year when it comes to space technology and space applications. And for us, I mean, personally, I feel COVID has made the world, you know, a smaller place. And you know, what we're doing right now with the whole virtual meetings, this was unacceptable in the past. You know, no government entities would allow such meetings to take place. It would have to be face-to-face, you know, meeting with any, you know, any serious players, even video conferencing or phone calls was not acceptable. You would end up, you know, 3 days to travel there, have that meeting and get yourself back as soon as possible so you could focus on all the other things that you had to juggle in your work days. And nowadays, I can speak to people across the world at once or individually across the day. And, you know, I can hold where in the past, maybe, you know, a busy day at the office could give me 6 to 8 meetings. I can hold close to 10 now. I don't have to move from the seat, you know. I haven't moved from the seat except to, you know, go to the sort of, let's say, get myself a fresh cup of tea or coffee and that's it, right? You can get so much more done. And I think that's enabled us to accelerate a lot of things. We had 2 programs at the UAE Space Agency that had been running before the pandemic. That was the ESIG, which is our Emirates Space Innovation Group. And this really had universities coming together to present their projects throughout space. And then we also had the GSIA, which is the Global Space Industry Accelerator, which we ran. And it was an astounding success where it was done through roadshows in the past. And now we've taken it all online. Before, we would have probably an audience of about 30, 40 people that we can get together. And because of what we have here today, we got close to 500 people in, you know, in a seating at times. And we ended up running a competition here in the UAE for startups offering an incubator opportunity. And we ended up having 150 applicants, and this was in May. So it gave people time to think and to restructure and revisit and see what it is they could do. And we encouraged the people to come and, you know, try their hand out in space. And we're very proud to have actually 4 entities graduating through this incubation program and hope for more of the same program to happen next year. Sorry, I probably took a lot more time than
No, it's all interesting. Actually, I have to admit, I watched the video of you, Fahad, talking about the excitement of SpaceX and building rockets, and it was exactly the same experience. You know, when Crew Dragon launched for the first time, the astronaut on the SpaceX vector, it was a real, you know, changing. Basically change of button. So it's really time, you know, the time when things are moving on and new space is becoming real and the people are not doubting anymore. And with this, I close the session. I thank very much the panelists and I obviously look at my admiration and the future collaboration into the United Arab Emirates. And I really hope to see you soon, also in Europe, as you know, I extend an invite here as when you're here in London, let me know. I will have a chat. Thank you very much again. Shukran. Ara, back to you.
Thank you, Elia. Hello, everyone, again for the start of our second group pitch session. As a reminder for the delegates who joined recently, this group is made of 3 startups. Each pitch session is 10 minutes. The pitch video is around 6 minutes, and we will have 4 minutes for questions. Please use the Q&A box below for your questions. Due to time limitations, some questions won't be attended. We will email you the answers where appropriate, and alternatively, you can meet the startups after the session. We will share with you the meeting links at the chat box below at the end of the last pitch. We will start our session with Goldilock. Goldilock from Czech Republic, specialized revolutionary technology that secures data and infrastructure on the internet without using the internet.
I'm in the cloud, you're in the cloud, businesses are migrating to the cloud because it's fast, it's cheap, it's scalable, but it's also fragile, vulnerable, and chaotic. Why is this? Because data is online and under attack all the time by criminals, hackers, state actors, development failings, and human incompetence. And it's a huge problem. 15 billion data sets have been lost or stolen this year alone. $20 billion has been paid in ransom, and the cost of the average corporate data breach is approaching $4 million US. Why is this happening? What's going wrong? Well, essentially, there are only two ways to store data: hot and cold. Hot or cloud storage is available all the time, as we said, but it's vulnerable all the time. And cold storage, while hyper secure, is essentially useless. We knew there had to be a better way, so we invented Goldilock. Goldilock keeps all of the advantages of hot and cold storage and gets rid of all of the weaknesses. With Goldilock, data and asset owners can remotely connect and disconnect data and devices from anywhere in the world in seconds with no human intervention, and most importantly, without using the internet. Here's how it works. Imagine a standard data retrieval scenario like Dropbox. With a Goldilock vault behind that, a user would attempt to access that data and be prompted that it is air-gapped, disconnected, and completely inaccessible from the internet. They would be prompted to use Goldilock to connect that device. Don't blink. This is how fast this happens.
Please enter your personal identification number. Your node is now connected and available online.
Once the user has made their secure call and entered their secure PIN, the air gap is closed and their data is available for them to use. And it can be disconnected just as quickly. So how does this work? While the rest of the world is playing down here, Goldilock plays up here. We have invented a back channel around the internet. When the user makes their secure call over non-VoIP carrying lines, they go through a 17-layer security process that verifies that it is them, and then they are connected to our air gap controller. Once they enter their unique secure PIN, it signals the Goldilock nodes that they may close, and then the user has access to their data. It's very powerful and very simple. What do we prevent? Just about everything that's affecting companies and individuals today. Social engineering, brute force attacks, zero-day exploits, ransomware, third-party breaches, and we also help with problems tomorrow. We are quantum-proof because even a quantum computer cannot overwhelm the basic laws of physics. Who needs us? Well, we're getting demand from everywhere. FinTech, RegTech, legal, health tech, insurance, crypto, media, all the way up to government and military. And we're also seeing demand from managed service security and platform providers who understand that there has to be a new paradigm to data security. We sell it as an easy to understand SaaS platform, off-site or on-premises. We are infrastructure agnostic. We're post-revenue, which proves that we're as a product market fit. And this year has been good for us in terms of traction. We've been accepted to several accelerators, including Hub71 here, Franklin Templeton in California. We received investment from Mubadala, and we have a growing stack of proof of concept requests from verticals and companies all over the world. We know this is a serious problem, so we have assembled a serious team. I have over 30 years of experience in building technology companies and software platforms. My partner, Stephen Kynes, is a corporate international lawyer of 25 years experience, helping technology companies to grow and expand. Our CTO, Brett Miller, is a Fortune 500 CTO, having been the head of software development for Dell EMC. There's nothing he doesn't know about secure storage. And even our second layer of management has extensive legal, sales, infrastructure, and marketing experience. And we need this team because we have a big vision. So beyond helping large entities secure their data, we want to build and deploy devices and platforms that can be readily and easily deployable and digestible by even SMEs and smaller companies. And once we've helped them secure their data, we want to help you secure your data with a Goldilock home device. We want you to be able to secure crypto keys, disconnect your home, isolate your IoT networks, and stop feeding information out of your house without your consent. A Goldilock in every home. We have closed a seed round of $1 million, which we used to build the technology, patent it, deploy it, and drive initial sales. And now that we know there is huge demand for this, we're raising a $5 million A round to enhance our technical capabilities and further develop the product, develop our onboarding to scale, make key industry hires, and most essentially grow revenue. And we're hoping that you will be the investor who will help us to make the world safe for data. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. We have a couple of questions here. The first one is, can you elaborate on the SME solution, please? Just wondering, what is the use cases there? Please unmute.
We're already helping enterprises, large enterprises, and getting demand from government as well. That's a large market, but there's a huge market of SME and smaller businesses that have their own networks, and they're using them within a certain time frame during the day, let's say, and they want a lights out solution. So when they go home, when they're not using their network in their office, they'd like to be able to disconnect it from the internet, but still have access to it. And that's a market that we are developing towards, and we've already had a lot of interest from cybersecurity vendors that this is a market that they'd love to address with devices and platforms.
So Jana is asking, can a company implement it themselves, or does it need to go via their cybersecurity vendor?
So we have an IP licensing scheme, and we can do on-premise installation or simply license the technology to large corporations that may have their own data centers and their own infrastructure and want to control it end to end. And we are also already working with some cybersecurity vendors and partners, and they can implement through their own channels to their end users. So both.
There is here a question from Jawa or Zowa, saying, can the same or even further protection level could be achieved through blockchain?
Certainly, blockchain is a fantastic technology, and it's one that we have great respect for. There are potential problems in the pipeline for blockchain, such as quantum computing, that can render it almost useless. But what we are is a complementary technology to that. So within a blockchain scenario, we are ideal for storage of private keys. So while a blockchain can have great utility in this type of scenario, it's not as hyper secure as we are, simply because of those basic laws of physics.
Okay, Ruben is asking a question. What are some use cases that already deployed, and how long does it typically deployment take?
Where are we here? Use cases. So our traction initially has been in fintech. That's where we saw a glaring hole in data security, especially with digital onboarding. So we have the clients that we've had so far are using our technology to store know your client, anti-money laundering, and proof of funds documentation. So the things that you upload when you are joining a platform. The deployment depends on what kind of deployment it is. Our deployment can be within hours. If it is a manual deployment or a manual usage of the system, but with an API integration, it can take, right now at this point, a few weeks. But as I mentioned there, part of our use of funds is to make this onboarding far more scalable and seamless. So as we get devices and as we get our platform more mature, then it should be relatively quick.
Last question, do you create special internet channel?
Sorry?
There is one last question. Do you create special internet channel?
No, we don't. That's actually the beauty of it. We're not using the internet at all. So there's nothing, our magic, let's say, is that there is not an IP touch point within that signaling pathway.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Goldilock team. Next is Technocarbon from France. The first sustainable high-performance material to replace steel, concrete, and metal alloys.
Hi, we are Technocarbon, and we are building the future thanks to the first sustainable high-performance material. You might not know this yet, but within 10 years, 50% of the steel and concrete will have to be replaced. The model of the material industry today is obsolete for three main reasons. Repair and maintenance are very expensive. Raw material shortage causes prices to surge. And global warming pushes us to find urgent solutions for climate, yet 20% of the greenhouse gas emissions come from material manufacturing. Today, there is no solution on the market that addresses all of these concerns. However, you heard about carbon fiber, which is widely used in the aerospace industry. And you also heard about stone, which is 95% of the earth crust. And of course, you heard about the sand, which is surrounding our cities, available in abundance, yet not usable for construction. Actually, when you combine carbon fiber with stone, and soon carbon fiber with sand, you obtain a new material, carbon fiber stone. Mastering this technology is the key to the future of the material industry because it enables building structures which last 5 times longer, that are 3 times lighter than steel for the same performance, with a carbon footprint divided by 10. Today, it is the only material that is both sustainable and high performance. Such a material can be used across every industry. On land, stronger and safer infrastructures. At sea, lighter ships that don't rust. In the air, stealth low-carbon aircraft. And in space, crew and asset protection. Construction firms and architects today love our product for 3 main reasons. The first one, it requires less raw material. Second, it has better strength and durability performances. And third, it allows them to slash their maintenance costs. We will start by manufacturing our product, and as CFS becomes the new industry standard, we are going to switch to a licensing model. Since carbon fiber and stone can be found anywhere on Earth, what we want to do in the long run is enable our customers to create their own CFS thanks to our licenses. It is a win-win deal. More margin for them, as opposed to when they use steel and concrete, and more margin for us, since we turn from a product company to a service company. The way we speed up our sales today is by combining the mass market potential of the construction maritime industries to the innovation agility of the aerospace industry. Here are a couple companies and organizations, including some here in the UAE, which are at the top of our sales and partnership pipeline. We have received requests for proposals for series production to be delivered by 2022. What we're doing right now in 2020 is that we are finishing our seed round. Our seed round allows us to deliver our first prototypes to our first customers. But if we want to be series production ready by 2022, we need a factory. And for that, we are raising 10 million euros over the next year. Since 2018, we have run prizes, grants, and awards from worldwide recognized organizations. And in 2021, we will begin field testing with our first customers. Our goal is to be series production ready by 2022 in order to reach break-even in 2023. An ambitious project requires an ambitious team. So we have Stefan Savarese. He's our president. He's the one carrying the vision, and he's a senior aerospace engineer. Next to him is Stefan Astic, our managing director and financial expert. Laura is in charge of getting support from public bodies. Michael is a seasoned sales executive, and I am in charge of marketing. I have experience working with industrial SMEs and IBM. On top of our team, we work with a dozen engineers from the award-winning civil engineering firm Lamoureux & Ricciotti. They are the pioneer of UHPC, ultra-high-performance concrete, which is one of the most performant material out there on the market. They are running our tests and simulations. Our ambition is to build the future across all industries, thanks to the first sustainable high-performance material. We are building the new Stone Age, and you can be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariane. We'll start our questions to remind the delegates that please use the Q&A box here to ask your questions directly to them. We will have 4 minutes, And the first question is, can you please, I guess the CFS will be very expensive as it is a new material. How do you plan to reach competition prices?
Well, the first factor that enables reducing production cost is going to be service production. So by massifying the production, using automation, Industry 4.0 technology, we can highly reduce the current cost because most of the cost actually comes from work and machine time, not from raw materials, because we use less raw material and they are abundant. So the prices will not increase in the future. The second part will be increasing our sales.
Okay, so we have two questions here. One from Khalid: is it possible to use this material in 3D printing? Or in another way, how we can mix it up with the using of this material in fast process building technologies?
Yeah, this is a material which is riding along the technology wave, which is called building information modeling, using prefab elements that can be quickly assembled. So it's offsite manufacturing, optimized transport and logistics, and fast construction, so that we can minimize the time required to build and deliver. We won't be using 3D printing, but there is a possibility for a hybrid technology that we call 4D printing, which is going to be using 3D elements to bind the CFS prefab elements, and that could be a way to combine both technologies. But we don't know yet exactly what the advantages of that would be.
How will you factor in sustainability?
So there are 5 ways we can factor in sustainability. The first one is that it requires raw materials that are not under constraint, which are stone and sand. The second one is that less transportation will be needed as opposed to other materials, because you can find carbon fiber and stone everywhere on Earth. Then less maintenance is needed because it has a longer lifetime, so you need to produce less, and so you use less material. And another reason why you use less material is because you have the same performance properties than concrete, for example, but for a third of the volume.
Okay, thank you so much. And the team and everyone who worked on this amazing project. Now we conclude our last pitch with Neurobotics from UK, specialized in event-based spatial AI for improving industrial operations and resources planning.
Hello, my name is Dana and I'm the CEO of Neurobotics, where we build brain-derived robotic AI. One of the problems that we have all been dealing with lately is obviously the COVID-19 lockdown. It has had a huge emotional and financial toll on all of us, and it was a major blow to most industries. However, there is an important silver lining to all of this, which is that it accelerated the need for businesses to implement autonomous AI and robotic solutions. This is a wonderful thing in itself. However, traditional AIs do not work for 3D video data because they analyze every pixel and they use manual annotation for every new task. This will not scale, nor can it lead to full autonomy on its own. At Neurobotics, we don't analyze every pixel. We learn from events, and we believe that this is how we pave the way to full autonomy. So as you can see, we only detect the events that are important and the pixels that are important. When there is no event, we actually stop recording altogether. And most importantly, we work at the millisecond range, so there is a very low latency. The best part about our technology is it actually integrates with the existing technical stack of our clients. So if our clients have CCTV cameras, for example, we can couple that with our own sensors and with our software to improve their business model. So our solution is customized, but it's also plug and play, which is the best of both worlds. So we work with one of the Sony companies to deliver us the sensors, we build the software, and we adapt it to our client stack, and we also work in a partnership with NVIDIA for the hardware. We support operational change via 3 products. The first product is called NeuroViewer, and what it does is it makes a 3D digital twin of any space, just like this room. The same would work for any airport, warehouse, construction site, you name it. NeuroMapper is the second product, and it does 3D event-based detection within that space. So once the space is mapped, say on a construction site, we would then map within a process all the objects, people, and vehicles involved. And then finally, once we do that for months or maybe a year on a client's site, we can then create a project for them specifically tailored for implementing autonomous robotics on their site. So clients choose us because we are up to 1,000 times faster. We are cheaper because we don't require expensive sensors like LiDARs or petabytes of space. And we are up to 10,000 times more energy efficient. This is one of our case studies. As you can see here, the blue and the red pixels code for anything that is moving on the construction site. At the same time, we marked in green for the cement that was put on successfully, and in red here for the cement that still needs to be put on. We track this with a progress bar, and we also check the quality of everything that's being done there. So based on this alone, this client estimated that we would generate huge savings every year, and this model is scalable. Apart from construction and manufacturing, we have other global leaders in our pipeline, including Airbus, BMW, and the Volkswagen Group. And I am very happy to say that in the past month alone in the UAE, we have obtained very fast and scalable traction. Strata is already using event cameras in their stack. We are working with CAE as well for manufacturing and with Edge on defense. The way we sell our product is very simple. So we use a simple B2B SaaS subscription model. We are full stack, plug and play ready, and we have a proprietary algorithm based on 30 years of world-leading Nobel laureate R&D that I myself was part of. We are also the most mature autonomous solution on the market. So on the left here, you see the very manual computer vision companies, which are soon to be replaced by the ones in the middle. Still, they are very much in R&D. So the most production-ready one is Sony Prophecy that we actually work with, and we build the software on top of that. So this makes us the most production-ready autonomous company on the market right now. This also makes us well positioned to become the market leader by 2023. So you can see our share of the market, our total addressable market. And this now is very important. So the neuromorphic computing market will affect these 3 verticals the most: military and defense, healthcare, and automotive. In these verticals, we have most corporate leads convinced to become our long-term partner. Now, this is my favorite slide, of course, because it's about our team. So my name is Diana. I am the CEO and the founder. I have a PhD at the Max Planck Institute and 2 postdocs on navigation and imaging systems, and I have 10 years worth of R&D and industry experience on this. We work with 2 major R&D clusters, the Human Brain Project and ETH Zurich. Together, they are offering us over $2 billion worth of R&D resources to serve our clients. And from these 2, we have chosen the most talented engineers that have joined our team. And the most recent addition is Jonathan from Draper Associates, who will be helping us navigate our sales and investment pipeline. We have many prestigious investors and partners. You can see them. The most recent one is Gothams, and we are obviously backed by Mubadala. Our VC offer is quite simple. We're closing our seed round right now. We have 1 term sheet for £3 million, and we're still open. As you saw, we have a rapidly growing pipeline with most aerospace, automotive, and construction corporations interested to be our clients, and 26 spatial mapping companies ready to pay for our product right now. And we already have interest in our future Series A from strategic investors like BMW and Airbus. With this, I'd like to thank you for your time, and please feel free to reach out to me on this email address. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana, for the presentation, and we wish you all the best. We'll start with the questions. Just to remind the audience, you can use the Q&A box here if you have any questions for Diana. The first question is, what value do you expect from a VC fund apart from capital injection?
Yes, this is a very nice question. So for me specifically, given our long-term vision, I mentioned the use cases in construction and manufacturing with BMW, with Airbus. our long-term vision for the next 30 years, say, is actually to create autonomous robots and have that at the level of human intelligence. So I would very much like to have our long-term investors on board with that vision and having them as excited as I am about it. I don't really expect any other knowledge about it. Of course, some networking would be useful, but at the core of it, this is what I would very much like to have in the VCs that join our team, to share a vision and to be very, very excited about the future as we are.
Amazing. So there is Nate asking what types of savings were realized in the case study?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. So in the case study that I presented for construction, and this is also a case study that was selected this year at the Plug and Play webinar as being the success story of the year. And it's been quite interesting. So first of all, this corporation had an interest in understanding the quality of the processes that happen there. So while there are many computer vision companies having bounding boxes on the workers there, or on the vehicles there, what they really wanted to understand is, for example, how is the cement put on? Is it put on correctly? Is there an error, for example, when cement is being mixed? Because these errors, even if they are errors of a few seconds, they can generate a large loss of capital in the long run. For example, an entire bridge could be damaged. This is one example of the immediate savings they could make within the first year of this application. Later on, with autonomous robots, they would be even bigger. It would generate a vertical on its own, but this is essentially the idea.
Amazing. One last question. How do you make sure you integrate the right amount of R&D into your enterprise partnerships?
Yes, so this is the part that I'm probably most proud of in the structure of Neurobotics. So we have 5 partner labs, as I mentioned, also at ETH Zurich, Human Brain Project, and we are very proud to also begin collaborations here in the UAE. So in these labs, we will actually have a PhD student in each, and these PhD students will be co-supervised by their professors, but also by our engineers that are much more experienced in, say, working with large corporations. So they get 2 types of supervision, one academic and one on the industry side. So in this way, when we have a given project with, say, a larger corporation, because here it makes sense to incrementally bring in R&D, we can specifically discuss that, and we can discuss with the lab, with the PhD student, with the engineers, and with the technical stack of the client how much R&D we need to integrate. And I think that's what makes Neurobotics really unique.
Thank you so much, Diana. Thank you, Neurobotics team. Now, prior to handing over to the mic to Elodie, if you wish to meet with the startups, we will start sharing the meeting links in the chat box below. Over to you, Elodie.
Thank you, Ara. Well, thank you everyone for spending this evening with us. And it was a great pleasure to introduce you to our 2020 cohort. And if you want to meet our funders, please feel free to join in Hub71 because they will be around. As Ara was saying, you will find in the chat the link, the Zoom link for the private meeting rooms of the founder if you want to continue the conversation with them. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye.